Welcome to Quantum Storytelling. Today we have a very special guest, but before I get to that, like, share, and subscribe. Today, Tonya Henderson, who did a TED Talk on fractals, and we wrote a couple books together. This one on being quantum with our lovely horse, Nadian, in a sunflower field, all fractals. And then there's the book, Organizational Development and Change Management by Tonya Henderson and David Boje. That's me. So let's hear her TED Talk.
Do you have a signature dance move? Sure you do. We all do. You see, there are certain perceptions and behaviors that just feel natural to us. We can't help doing again and again if we don't pay attention, and sometimes even if we do. Fractals are special patterns in nature. They involve the same kinds of things happening over and over again in big ways and small ways in open systems. Usually because there's some hidden rule being applied underneath the surface.
Let's start with some comedy, how we lost a domain name to a pirate trying to get money. Anya, do you remember you had that website called quantumstorytelling.com? Well, and you tried to transfer it to the conference so we would have it, and you and I could never, you have to do it within 15 minutes or something. We couldn't do it. Some yo-yo is selling that for $53,000 now. You can buy quantumstorytelling.com for $53,000. What do you think of that?
I think that's insane, and I wish I had just kept the URL selfishly for myself.
I wish I would have paid you $20 a month to keep that URL. And the other thing, now we've got quantum dash storytelling, and people have to remember to put the dash in there. But the dash has meaning, you know, in the quantum world. It means that the material and the discursive are connected, the discursive of the storytelling and the material of the quantum, all that molecular atomic stuff, quarks and all that. And so the dash actually has meaning in a kind of a Kiran world. Anyway, so that's the story of how somebody took our domain and is charging it $53,000. And if you're out there, I hope you go broke, you know, into that one. So in this next segment, Tonya and I talk about the origins of the Quantum Storytelling Conference, now in its 14th year, every December at 10 to 10. So I'm here with Dr. Tonya Henderson, and we first met at Colorado Technical University, and she is one of the co-founders of the Quantum Storytelling Conference. And Tonya, do you have any members of the early days? How long ago was this? 50 years ago? No.
About 2012, 2011.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I remember when I first met you,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's a pretty funny story.
Well, go ahead. Let's go. I'll try
Do you
not to embarrass.
remember how type A I was? And I had read all the books for the class before we met the professors.
And I related to that because in college, I read all the books and I started the term papers before the class would begin. You know,
I wasn't that good, but I was very quantitative in my thinking at that point, and the narrative methods was one of the textbooks, and I didn't understand it yet, and therefore I didn't necessarily like it. And so I was sitting next to one of my classmates, and I was griping about, okay, I read the books, but I don't like this one. And Trina, it was Trina Gulligan. Trina said,
yeah.
author's standing right there
Yeah.
as you walked into the room. And then we had that conversation in the cafeteria where, you know, you were actually bringing in students, and I said, well, do you know anything about complexity? In my snooty way. And you were so gracious. You said, well, I'm looking for someone to
Actually, it's my thing. In fact, I need to write books that are less complex.
Yeah.
That's actually my most famous book now. It's sort of up there with Storytelling Organization. But, yeah. It was a wild book because the publisher, Sage, says don't do anything new in the book. So I waited for the proofs to come in and working with the copy person who does the editing. And then on the final draft, when she was all done, I put in new stuff in every chapter. And it floated on through the review process. Yeah, but that's narrative methods. So what was that like? I remember you had a drawing on the board on the wall. I think it was flip chart paper or something, and you were drawing spirals for some reason. I remember that.
I don't even remember. I think
Yeah, now I said, "Oh, that's a spiral," and you go, "Oh, okay." But when did you get interested in fractals?
so right before, so I'd been accepted to CTU, and I didn't really know what I was doing or getting into. And so I was listening to all these audiobooks, and I was just random grabbing anything I could from the public library. And I actually told this story on my TEDx talk. I was pulling into the parking lot at my job back then in a cube farm, doing the kind of stuff I do now, but with less authority and power. And I was listening to this book on fractals, which I knew nothing about. And as I pulled into the parking spot, it just hit me that, people being part of nature, that's why we do the same things over and over again. And that was why I was chasing what I was when you met me.
Very neat. Now, the first conference was a meeting, you and I and several other doctoral students from Colorado Technical University. And do you remember who they were, some of them? Or
I do. Let's see, it was me, Deborah Hockenberry, Wanda Kuzar. Who else? I think Krisha Koppich, wasn't she part of that group?
Right, yes.
And wasn't Ivy Durant too?
I believe so. She was definitely part of it, yes.
Yeah, because we needed some time with you face to face to work our dissertations, and they weren't inclined to fly you up. So we flew down and celebrated your birthday too.
And we were working with storytelling, and you were working with fractals. Each dissertation was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first year we sat around, we talked about the dissertations and how to do the methodology and spruce up the theory here and there. And it was a good time. Then came the second year, and we'd already done that. So what did we do the second year?
I think we built on where we started, and the group grew.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was
Might have
that
been
my
NMSU students then that were there. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, and you know what? I think wasn't Ronnie in that first group too?
Could have been. He actually came a year early to the doctoral program just to work with me. And I was so glad, so humble. And
I think it's in that first group too.
yeah, so that's great. And then a while later, Annette Strand came over from Denmark. That was a great event.
Second or third year, I can't remember.
And I remember the event, I still have it on my office door, and I'll try to take a photo of it, that poster you made, and we signed it. That was great. And it had the triangles. What were those triangles? Self was in the middle, I think.
Actually, that grew. It started out as one of the models for my dissertation. It was relational introspection, which was the most unapproachable way you could possibly just say, zoom in, zoom out, think about the context.
For you viewers out there, we are in relational retrospection now. We're looking back on memories, and I'm older than Tonya, much older, so my memory is getting vaguer. But that's what we're talking about, is pulling those memories out that are part of our friendship. And when we see each other in person or Zoom, we go, okay, I remember that little glimmer thing. And you remember a vivid thing. You remember like names, places,
It
everything.
was my thing. It was my obsession at the time.
Well, let me bridge right into one of the reasons I want to talk to you, because you're one of the few people in the world that understands fractals and fractal consulting and fractal organizing and all of that in a really profound way. And right now, there's some fractal consulting companies out there. I don't know if you've seen them, but they have pictures of the Mandelbrot and the other fractal images of a coastline. And that's
Well,
about
absolutely.
seem to have the farm thing, the farm. What was farm stand for?
Fractal action research method.
Fractal
Yeah.
action research. Well, the action research needs a boost. I think the fractal can do it. And I remember that you were into Karen Barad's work, maybe Donna Haraway, Jane
bet.
Bennett, perhaps, and
Yeah.
and it just dawned on me. I woke up the other morning thinking about the dissertation and your work and the two books we wrote, which I'll try to get some screenshots of for the audience. And one of the things that I struggled with in the last couple of years is I didn't see the relationship between quantum and fractal. I know that sounds strange. In fact, I had to go away from quantum storytelling for a while until I could come at it in some ways I used to and some new ways. So this is what I'm thinking. I shared the video and I'll put a link to the audience. My dad invented the industrial compactor machine. Smashes trash, and not in your kitchen. These are big. These are about 8 foot long, about 6 feet high, with hydraulic plungers on them. Anyway, it occurred to me he got his patent right in early 70s and then finalized in 78, and then there were about 50 other patents based on his patents from then till now. And they formed, you remember, it was in our book, it formed a Fibonacci spiral. It's center and it widens as it goes out. And I thought, oh my gosh. But I didn't know, what's quantum about that? And then this thing went off in my head and it said, oh, David, it's because there's materialities in those inventions. And his idea influences the material construction of timers and sensors and hydraulic.
Fractals.
You know what I mean? But they're diffracting out into so many other. They're not making an exact copy of his invention. They're like different, and so his invention creates lines of other inventions, and that's quantum in the sense of Barad's material discursive, because it's material, electronics and metal and plungers and oil and maraschino cherry spray to get the smell out, bags on the end, because you actually bag it in plastic or paper bags. And it was an environmental project, so that's part of the discursive. So instead of burning, it would, so I'm just filling you in on the story. And so that's the discursive. So there's material there, metal and everything, and then there's discursive. And for Barad, there's no separation. So
Right.
I'm trying to cue you to get memories back flowing in you. So what do you think? Is quantum storytelling and fractal spiraling, fractal branching, is that relatable? Or am I like in woo-woo land? Am I?
Everywhere. So I couldn't get people to listen to me when I was trying to be a consultant. And it was because of the language I used and because I was so focused on the theory and not so much on the realities of what other people were dealing with. So that model, the relational introspection model, eventually grew into something I called SOS that people could relate to. And it was self, others, situation.
Okay.
And I would actually draw the triangle and have people take notes in the self. This is my perspective. This is how others see it. This is the broader context. And it forced you to zoom in and zoom out
Well, let's role play.
One of the farm,
I'm a
right?
client. I got a printing business. I do commercial printing and a little bit of instant print. Um, how is SOS going to help me, Sonia? Why should I hire you?
Well, I'm not consulting anymore, but I'd happily refer you to friends.
Well,
But,
play.
self,
Get into the role
but
here.
so it's a framework, right? So self, everybody, we all star in our own movie, and a lot of us never get out of that self part of the triangle. So we all see things through our own lens, but if you can zoom out a level and contextualize yourself in a group of others or multiple groups of others,
Right.
see variations, and then you contextualize that in, an economic system or a social system.
Sure.
It's a way to force people to zoom out and zoom in, because if you can spot patterns at multiple levels, underneath it are the core values, beliefs, behaviors that are driving the changes you see, whether you like them or not.
Okay, so I have this commercial print shop, and then my buddies and I, we started a personnel agency for printers in Los Angeles. It's a true story. And it was before GPS. But I calculated the distance using a distance equation. And I'm not going to go into that, but it would calculate the distance between zip codes. And so
Mhm.
if I knew the employee zip code and I knew the shop and the kind of technology they had in the shop, instant print, implant print, commercial print, you can't send an instant printer to a commercial. It's the quality there, the attention to detail is not there for that employee. But you can send an instant person to an implant, that'll work. You can't put an implant in a commercial, you know what I mean? You have to know the technology. So I just made a matrix of the different kinds of machines and where the printers are, where the shops are. And I could outperform just about anybody. People
Yeah.
interview somebody, they go like, "Well, that's a nice person. I think I'll hire them." No, no, no. That's wrong context, wrong situation, wrong yourself. How you feel about that person. That's not it. They have to understand the technologies, the work environment. They have to have the right work ethic. You know what I'm saying? So I like your SOS model very much. Um, but the fractality of it was that we had a branch of commercial printing. Then we're branching and doing instant print placements, and then we're doing implant placements and commercial placements, right? So that's
Right.
called branching fractal because you're splitting and then you're taking instant printers, and some of them work on an AB Dick printer called AB Dick, and another work on a Chief printer, more the implant people, but a Chief. And some people can work a Heidelberg, so you have to these are different career paths. And I actually met a fellow who said he fired everybody in his shop when he got the new Heidelberg because he didn't want any mistaken habits to form on his Heidelberg web press. And I'm going like, whoa, that's pretty drastic. And do you think people are trainable, salvageable? Should we just dismiss them when we jump to a new technology, take a new fractal branch? What do you think?
So it's interesting, because when we're looking to sometimes the problems we have are ingrained in the social systems we've built around a problem set. Sometimes we like to fight, and so we continue to fight when we don't have to. Um, and in those cases, it's very difficult. But I think there are core transferable skills, and mindsets. And if you've got a person who's malleable enough to be willing to learn new things, I think you can get past that. But I think all the different, the branching of the printing skill sets parallels a lot of other things, like in music. You have a great piece of music. The next thing you know, you're hearing a country version of it, you're hearing a punk rock version of it. So not just fugues, but variations on themes. Um, our own styles, in our own unique direction. I don't think I answered anything. I think I
Oh, you
rambled.
did great. You did brilliantly. So an executive, can they learn to think fractally? Can they learn to look at their divisions and departments and say, well, that's a fractal structure, and oh, I'm in a downward spiral, I'm in an upward spiral, that's a fractal. Can they do that? How hard is it for an executive to think fractals?
I think using the language of fractals, very difficult. But I think the really good leaders intuitively get it. Oh, I've seen this pattern before. And you can kind of see what's going to happen. I see it with the people who work for me now. You've got certain personalities who they've been a part of fighting the good fight for so long, they don't know any other way. I've got others that, are so new that, they don't have the background to make the argument, but the right mindset.
So I really loved your work and the work we did together on the books. And it occurred to me, I woke up in a dream the other day, about a week ago, and I was dreaming of fractals. And I'm like, why haven't I been doing anything in the fractal world, And
Yeah.
it's all around me, the sunflower, the pine cone, any kind of a tree has branches and sub branches and little twigs. Everything is in nature. I don't know about everything, but I mean, most things have a fractal pattern, and then people behave in fractal patterns too. I'm going like, okay, all
Yep.
right.
Everywhere.
Not doing anything with it, Tanya. Why did I stop,
I don't know. I had I had to worry about a job. So
Okay.
that took me in a different direction than I wanted to go.
So I'm going to make a series of videos, and I did one of my dad. I'm going to do one with you. I'll make some shorts out of this and some longer versions and put some nice graphics in. You'll love it. But I'm going to get some people. They're going to want to say, oh, okay, fractal consulting. Yeah, there's a bunch of, and I'll look at these fractal consulting firms. I'll do a video on that too and see what they're doing. And we were pioneers. We were doing it when nobody was doing it. And there was a book called Fractal Organization, but it was just organization with the term fractal put on the front of it. You know what I
They
mean?
they just like the word, yeah, I think.
It
But
was stuff in that new wine bag. You know what I mean?
I think Glenda Oyang, with her what, so what, now what, for dealing with complexity, I think she is probably the person who has put it into simple terms that don't terrify people.
Okay,
Um,
what kind of terms?
well, she has this nice model where, in some of her stuff on dealing with chaos, about, okay, every situation, what, so what, now what? And it's grounded in that understanding of complexity, but it's not terrifying to the client. I think,
It's the word complexity. They sort of go, I'm out here. What? I want simple. Give me.
but yeah, what we were talking about and people thought we were crazy, I think in many circles is just accepted now.
It
Um,
is. It is. So I believe there's a comeback here. There's a consulting career for you. You could be a trainer,
so
other consultants. I think if if we can make that case that we live in a material world, there's material things all around our clothing. I'm sitting on a couch here, there's a lamp and a mirror in the background. Um, these materials come into our life. We're so used to them. We're like fish in the ocean, we don't notice the material world we're in. And that material world has this quantum aspect to it, not just at the molecular subatomic level, but at the level of behaviors and forms. There's fractal geometry
yes.
everywhere. There's fractal geometry everywhere. And now there's some new research articles I put at the end of my film about my dad that are talking about fractal geometry, and there's some that are talking about, is there a relationship between quantum physics and fractal geometry? And they're coming
I think there is.
answer of yes, there is.
Probably there is. I mean, I haven't studied quantum physics, so I'm not qualified to say that, but certainly I think there is intuitively.
Intuitively and every other way. So we started a conference and we're in our 14th year, and I hope you're going to be able to come in Zoom or in person. Either way is good.
I try.
No, try, do. Yoda. And because I'd really like to build some pieces around the fractality and the relation to the quantum world and see what happens when we pull those together, those two worlds. Not, that are already together and we're just noticing it. It's not like we're creating the merger here.
Might be fun to play with a farm model.
Fractal action research methods, it's really good because I did a review on action research, handbook of action research, and now they're saying they're all going to social constructivism. Well, that means they're ignoring the materiality, they're ignoring the fractal patterns. They're saying, oh, your patterns are all created in your head, David. Well, maybe some patterns, yes, but not the fractal ones. I'm sorry, that's not happening. You know?
Yeah. That's really interesting that I never saw sociomateriality and social constructivism as mutually exclusive.
Oh,
I saw them as
I don't either. But when you read their work, it's on that new stuff. Everything is socially constructed. There's no reality. Reality doesn't exist. Only what's in our mind. I'm going like, I don't
no.
think it's even good psychology.
If that were the case, I'd still be writing and not working.
Well, even when I'm working, I'm writing. So
Well, that's true. But working in other fields to earn a living.
well, I hope you'll come and visit us in Las Cruces, New Mexico at some point. We got two lake houses here. Out here's the lake and out that window.
Did you move? You're not.
Oh, we got some summer places or winter. We come here and stay 2, 3 days at a time, then go back to Cruces. And we
Oh, no.
bugs here. Nobody's firing shotguns. Like in my neighborhood, they're all firing. It's a good neighborhood and a good house, but everybody comes from Cruces to fire off their.
Oh, is there a range?
Here, it's a state park. Rangers don't allow that behavior, and so it's quiet. The dogs are feeling good. So there's everything I see out in the yard, the trees, the bushes, the flowers, it's all fractals, and so very special. So one of the things that I remember about Colorado Technical Universities, you had some very fine professors there. Joanne Preston, for one, was there. I was there. Grace Ann Roselle was there. We had some other people there, all good.
Torres.
Needed to work with the actual dissertation text because for some reason there was a huge jump to be made for the people that I was working with between having an idea, getting exposure to all these fine professors, and then writing a dissertation. There was a lot lost in translation between. Not for you. You were always very, very well prepared and as in writing essays and everything. But a lot of people, I had to go through, and grammar isn't my forte, as you know. But I would go through and be changing the grammar, and I'd be striking out whole paragraphs and going like, you're not critiquing anything in your review. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. Okay, that's good. That's good. I could spot the good and the bad and the awful, But so I felt I really had a nice job to do, really felt like I could get
Made
in.
a difference for people.
Yeah.
Especially like for me as somebody who,
There. with 8 dissertations on the table. I was going from one to the other, making comments and proposals and
Oh my goodness.
just changing the writing. I said, heck with the comment here. This is how you do that kind of paragraph. and uh, and they bounced back, and within a year, they were doing higher quality work, I felt. And then they shut the program down. What's wrong with CTU? Why'd they shut this program down? It was the best org change development program in the country, I thought. What happened?
I don't know. I taught at CTU in the master's program for a little while after I graduated, but just as an adjunct. So I was never really in the know on the doctoral side. Um, I I don't know if it's a pattern within the for-profit institutions or
Yeah,
I have friends who would know, but I don't. I don't know what.
I'm not asking for rumors, but it's occurred to me that they went very quantitative, and they got rid of kind of the qualitative storytelling work and that sort of thing.
I don't
And
know. I think a lot must have changed when Joanne left.
yeah,
Um, I was one of the last classes that she had as dean.
yay, Joanne. Plug for Joanne, okay? Well, I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed our little session here, and I hope we can do it again. And I'm going to go to Wanda next, and
Oh, good.
maybe Krisha after that, maybe Joanne, and sort of build the early days of the Quantum Storytelling Conference and Annette and some of the moves we've made as we've grown. And I think there's kind of an acceptance for working on different branches of the problem of SOS, at that conference. You know what I mean? It's a
That
branch
was,
of fractal and it's an SOS in the middle.
it was a very good environment to play with ideas. It
Well,
was welcoming.
it is my favorite playground. Well, look, you take it easy and tell your husband I said hello and tell him to
Give
get
Tracy my best.
right. And I'm gonna go away and